Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated, where today I am thrilled to be speaking with actress Amber Nash. So welcome, Amber.
Hi.
This is a big deal. You know, we're such fans of yours, and we've been fans for a little while. So we started. I was telling you before we got on air that my sons wanted to do the podcast with me today, but one's working, one's taking a final. But we started watching Frisky Dingo. Oh,
Wow.
yeah, loved you on that. Loved you on that. That was so good. And then of course that led to Archer, which has been on the air now for like 2 decades or something.
Yeah, that's a deep cut. I mean, people that know Frisky Dingo, I'm like, whoa, that's awesome. You're one of like 200 people.
Frisky Dingo is a great show.
Yeah.
It was so different when it first came out, and it was I think it was on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, it was a strange one.
It was crazy. Like season 2 started, and I was like, I'm starting to understand what this show is about, which is a bad sign. Like, I need to get out because it's making me crazy.
Yeah, it's time to end it. And I think was that the same guys that did C Lab?
Yeah, and Archer.
Well, yeah, and of course Archer.
Yeah.
The C Lab's one that I never could get. They were too young when C Lab was
Yeah.
on. They were too young, so they weren't really into C Lab. C Lab, one of my favorites ever. I just, that one absolutely just cracked me up. Still does.
Mhm. Yeah, that was them really kind of honing their brand of humor. Yeah.
Well, so let's start this way. How did you get into the entertainment business? What made you want to do voiceover work and acting? You know, what made you want to get into that?
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I was always kind of a ham. Like that's how I made friends, was to like act up and talk in class and like
Yep.
do stupid characters on the playground. And I would get in trouble all the time. And then when high school came around, there was drama club, and I was like, awesome. And so I hung out with all the drama nerds, and I also played soccer, so I was kind of like riding the
Okay.
line between nerd and jock. And then I went to college, and I was like, where I grew up and my family was like, being an actor is not a career path that is even something you can consider doing. And I was like, okay, great.
Thanks.
So I got a degree. I started school planning to get a degree in biology, and then I was like, I am not smart enough to get a degree in biology, so I can't do that. So then I changed to psychology, which is also pretty hard, but I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I can better manage this. And so I got a degree in psychology. But while I was in college, I was like, I'm just missing something. Like I need an outlet of some kind. And a friend of mine had gone to see an improv show, and he was like, have you ever seen improv before? And I was like, no. He's like, you got to go see this place. And so we went to this theater that was like in Midtown Atlanta, and I was like, this is mind blowing. Like this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so I signed up for classes that night, and then started like the next weekend. And so I took classes at there's a place called Whole World Theater. I took classes there for years. And then I kind of moved around until people kind of got to know me. And I started doing stuff with a company called Laughing Matters, and they started putting me in shows. And then I finally found my way to Dad's Garage. And so this was all while I was in college. But then while I was working, after I got my degree in psychology, I got a real job as like a counselor. But I always did improv stuff on the weekends. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm going to quit my real job as a counselor where I make a real paycheck every 2
That's
weeks.
bold.
And I'm going to become an improviser, which nobody does. You become an actor, but not an improviser. My parents are like, we don't even know what that is. And so I was able to get a job in the office at the theater, Dad's Garage, doing education stuff. So that gave me a little bitty paycheck. And then I was able to do gigs and stuff like that to just kind of make extra money so I could at least like buy my own beer at the bar. And so I just kind of pieced together an existence. And it was like that for years. And then the guys at Frisky Dingo came along, and they were like, hey, do you want to do voice work for us? And I was like, oh my God, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Yeah.
What? So did they see you at a show? How did they find you?
So the cool thing is back then, the theater Dad's Garage was kind of a small little theater. There weren't a ton of people there. We still had small audiences. And then Cartoon Network and Adult Swim had just kind of started. So they were kind of
Right.
small and scrappy doing comedy too. And so there was these two entities in Atlanta that were these scrappy little places doing comedy. And so one of our guys at Dad's Garage, one of our improvisers, was also an animator, and he worked with the guys
Ah,
at C Lab. His name's Christian Danley. And so they knew about us, and they would come see shows, and they would try to get us into their shows whenever they needed somebody, because they needed people to be able to do character voices, and improvisers are
right.
great at doing characters.
Sure.
And so, like Lucky Yates, who is Dr. Krieger,
Yeah.
he worked on C Lab, and he worked on Frisky Dingo.
Yep.
And so they knew about us, and they had me audition for something for Frisky Dingo before the show became what it was. It was going to be more of like a household drama, which sounds even weirder than what it became. And they wanted me to play like a teenage character. And so I auditioned for that, and they were like, no, you're not right for it. And so I was like, okay, cool. That's just being an actor. And then the role changed, and they were like, do you want to do this role? And I was like, yeah, great. So I played
Yeah.
the role of Val, was my main role, but
Yep.
they didn't have any money, and I didn't have any money. And they were like, can you do other voices? And I was like, yeah, sure, I can try. So then they had me do a bunch of other voices, and they would pay me like under the table, and I would have to take my check to like a check cashing place because I was so broke. I didn't have a bank account. So yeah, those were the good old days, man. Like the guy that played Mr. Ford
Yeah.
in Frisky Dingo. Okay, so this is the kind of business they ran. Okay. He was the guy that lived in the house across the street, because they just made this show in a little house in East Atlanta. Mr. Ford was the man that lived across the street that mowed their lawn. And they were like, you want to do a voice on our show? And Mr. Ford's like, yeah. And he was such a great character in real life. Like Mr. Ford would mow the lawn, but he would always wear a batting helmet in case a rock got kicked up so he wouldn't get a head injury. Like, these are the real kind of people that I was working with back then.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Mhm.
Did you do theater or anything in high school, or did all this come later?
I did a little bit. Like I did, I was in drama club, and so I did like a couple of plays, and
Yeah.
I moved to LA with my parents because my dad got a job in Los Angeles, like in the middle of high school. And so they had more to offer, obviously, in LA. And so I was exposed to improv in drama in high school in LA. And I was like, whoa, this is really cool. Like I just get to make stuff up. Awesome. So yeah, I did a little bit of it in high school, but then I really got into it halfway through college.
Yeah. Yeah. Improv is so interesting because I couldn't, I've done just some very tiny bit of acting. I'm terrible, but just circumstances has put me in a few situations where I had to do it, but I couldn't improv at all. I'm so, I admire that a lot
Yeah,
because
it's hard.
it's so, yeah, because you have to come up with stuff just off the top of your head. And, I'm more of I got to memorize it.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
that way. That's
Totally.
and we talk with a lot of different performers, and not everybody can do improv. And so there's some really good actors that they strictly reading the lines. They
Yeah.
can't
And for
improv,
me,
and vice versa.
yeah, I've been doing improv for so long that when I have to memorize lines, I get really nervous because I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to mess something up. Like I don't know what those words are that I have to memorize. And if I
Yeah.
mess it up, then I'm going to screw up a cue, or, the writer's going to get mad at me. And so, yeah, it's two totally different frames of mind.
I had Allison Dunbar on, who she used to be on this show called Quick Draw.
Okay.
With John Lear, and the entire show is a Western, but the entire show was improv. It was on Hulu, so the whole thing was improv.
Wow.
So she's really good at the improv. So she tried to walk me through doing an improv. It was a disaster. I mean, she was fine, but that's terrible.
That's great.
So I saw her. I was like, not for me. I'll just talk to people.
Yeah, that's great.
Did I see this? I'm probably completely wrong, so forgive me. Did I see you on an episode of Mr. Robot?
Oh my God, did you?
I think.
Because here, let me tell you the story. Like an actor, I'm just always auditioning for stuff.
Yeah.
And because I'm not known for doing on-camera work, I'm desperate So anytime an audition comes along, I'm like, I am there, whatever you need. And so I auditioned for Mr. Robot, and it was the day after the 4th of July when I had to do the audition, and I was totally hungover, and it was a terrible audition, but I got the job, and that never happens. And they shoot in New York. So I was like, I'll be there. I got myself to New York in 2 days, and then I went to go shoot. And I was like so excited because the crazy thing is it wasn't a huge role, but like as an on-camera actor, nobody knows who I am. So I'm like, I'll do anything. And
Right.
I know Christian Slater because he was on Archer, which nobody ever says.
Right.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
just an actor doing a small role, but I know Christian Slater.
I know, it's awesome.
It's so crazy. So like I texted him. He wasn't in the stuff I was shooting that day, so I didn't get to see him. But I did my day. It was just like it was as a spokesperson, I was giving a speech. And then we waited, and then we never heard anything. And then we found out, we thought that it got cut out of the episode. So maybe it made it into something and you saw it, but I did shoot for it.
Well, that's what I thought. And it's possible. Maybe I've caught a clip somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I assumed I was probably wrong. But that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really a fun time.
I think that happens a lot where you shoot a scene for, especially with TV shows, and then it ends up getting cut.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they run out of time, or it doesn't work anymore. They change the story. Totally.
They still have to pay you.
That they do, and they still have to give you credit for it too.
That's the type of work I need. If they could just pay me, but they cut the scenes, that's fine.
Yeah, that's great.
That's fine. I don't have any problem with that. So when they approached you to do Pam on Archer, and how did they describe that character to you?
It's actually really funny. So I'd gone into that crappy house in East Atlanta where we did voice recording for Frisky Dingo. And let me tell you, when I would go to that house, it was not a studio at all by any means. It was just a bunch of like dudes working in a gross old house. And the recording booth was a closet that they had put like soundproofing up in. But the worst part, now I don't think I could do this. I literally think it would kill me. But back then I was like, I don't know. I just need the money. You go in the closet and I would close a door, and then they would close another door behind me and lock me in.
Oh no.
And there was no ventilation, and I'm in this closet. Anyway, it was a nightmare. But I was at awful. That house, and it was after Frisky Dingo was done. We'd made 2 seasons and they were not going to make any more, but they were making the DVDs and they were doing some voice stuff for the DVD extras.
Right.
So I went in and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come in and record some stuff. And so while I was there, before I left, they were like, hey, we want you to look at something. And I was like, cool. And there was a monitor that had Pam's head on it. It was the first time I'd seen it, so I didn't know what this was. And they had one of my lines from Frisky Dingo that was coming out of Pam's mouth because they wanted to see if my voice would match up with the way that Pam looked.
Right.
And I was like, cool, what is this? And they're like, well, we're doing this new show. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yes, sure, yeah. I'll do anything. And then I had no idea that it would end up being like FX wasn't a big network back then. It was pretty new. I had no idea really what I was saying yes to, but they explained the character as just kind of like, she's the HR director. Like she's kind of the butt of all the jokes. And like in the script, in the pilot script, she is introduced as the mousy director of HR. And it's like, if you think about that today, you're like, mousy? You would never use that word to describe Pam. So they really had envisioned her as a totally different type of character in the beginning. And then she was that kind of in season 1. And right. She became something so totally different. So yeah, it was quite a ride those first few seasons.
Yeah, she's absolutely our favorite character because everything she does is hilarious.
She's so great. Like I'm so lucky. I always say that if I wasn't on the show, I would still watch it and I would be a fan of it. And Pam would be my favorite character. Like she's just the best character. I'm so lucky.
Do you have a favorite line of Pam's?
Oh man, there's so many good ones. And one of the ones I think like, people always say the like dirtiest ones because she's so dirty.
She is
but one dirty. Of the ones I love the most is like, I love her relationship with Cheryl because it's just kind of like little sistery.
Yeah.
And this is in, I think, season 2. I don't even know what episode. I need to go back and figure it out. But Cheryl's sitting at her desk and Pam walks by and she just goes, "Hey there, neck bones." And it's like, what a weird thing to call somebody, but it's so perfect. I just love it so much.
So did you make that up or did they write that line?
I'm pretty sure they wrote that. Like we do a
Because that
little
sounds like
bit,
a made up line.
yeah, they do. We do a little bit of improvising, but Adam, who wrote the first 10 seasons, who's the creator, is like the funniest guy. And so he's like, "You improvised that." And I was like, "No, I didn't. You totally wrote that." But also in the first probably 6 seasons, Adam, who was the writer and the creator, was also our director. So when we were in the booth, he could just be like, "Okay, that's not working. Let's do something else." And so there was a lot of like screwing around and improvising with him. So it's kind of hard to know
Oh, that's
with those
cool.
earlier seasons. Yeah.
Did they record all of that? The kind of the, you know what I mean?
In-between
'Cause
stuff.
the in-between stuff.
It must be. I mean, I don't know. They're going to use it one day against me somehow,
It's
but
going to
like,
come out someday. I don't know.
yeah, it must be all recorded. And you know, people like making weird noises and like stuff that actors do to get their voice ready. I'm sure all that stuff exists somewhere.
You know it's out there.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
So I got a line that you can say for me.
Mm-hmm.
This one's an easy one, but you got to put Too Opinionated in front of it.
Okay.
So it's just, this is about to get weird.
Okay.
All right, but
Too
you got to say this
opinionated.
fast.
Are you ready?
Yeah, just start over.
Okay, here we go. Too opinionated? This is about to get weird.
Well, I'm done. That's all I got.
It's another great line because it's not dirty. It's just totally Pam, you know?
Yeah, that to me, that's my, when she said, it just cracks me up.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. Some of the stuff she says it's just kind of subtle, but it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Yeah, and the whole cast is funny. And I know a lot of that goes to good writing, but you have to have good, actors, especially voice acting. Voice acting is not easy.
Yeah. We're so lucky. We've got the best cast and everybody's so funny. Like when I first met everybody, Chris Parnell, I mean, I've been watching that guy do comedy as I was coming up as a person in comedy. And so I was like, oh my God, I get to sit next to this guy. Like I get to share a stage with this guy. And he is so genuine and so nice. And he's Southern too. He grew up in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so like, you just get that from him. Like I told him, I was nervous and I was like, I don't know this guy. I'm just like talking about whatever. And so I told him some story about Dad's Garage or a theater or something. And I didn't see him for like 6 months. And the first thing he said, he's like, "How's that going with Dad's Garage?" And I was like, "You're the best." Like he's the coolest guy. He's so wonderful. And like Aisha, like we've all become really great friends. And I say this all the time. I was like, we all like each other. And it's because we don't actually work together.
Right.
So we've been working together for 10 years, 11 years, but we only see each other like 4 times, 5 times a year. So we all love each other.
Yeah. You haven't been around each other long enough to get on each other's nerves. Have you ever looked at Chris Parnell's IMDb page? He's in everything.
Want to. It'll make me so depressed.
Gosh, he's in everything.
It's true. And he does so much voice work too. Like you don't think about it, but like I'll be just sitting on my couch and I'm like, that's Chris. Like he's in every commercial. He does so much work. It's crazy.
Did you know how soon after the show started to air did you figure out that this was going to be something that was probably going to be around for a while?
It took a little while. Like I think it was, so season 1 kind of happened and there was a little bit of buzz about it. And then they told me there was going to be a season 2 and I was like, okay. And then I think it was like halfway into season 2 that FX was like, you guys are doing great. And like the ratings were good. And there was a lot of critical buzz. Like the critics were really into it. So I think because the first 2 years we're like, this shit ain't happening. Like they are not going to keep us on the air. This show is too weird and too dirty. But the great thing is FX was like such a cool, they still are, like even then when they were a new network, like with Always Sunny and like so many of their shows, like they let the shows do what the shows want to do. Like they don't kind of micromanage and they let the shows be brilliant. And I think that's why the early shows on, particularly the comedies, were able to just kind of explode. So we really got lucky with having them as a network, because I think on another network we would have been canceled after 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're probably right. And
Yeah.
it's just gotten better and better. Although the number of episodes has been decreasing. See if you can fix that.
I know. I'm like,
More
guys,
episodes.
I'll do 40 episodes a year. What are you talking about? 8? Yeah, I know. Cause I love, the thing is people don't realize this, but like as a voice actor, I go in, so one episode, I'll go in and I'll work on that episode and I'm there for 40 minutes. And that's
Yeah.
the end of my day. And I do that once every 3 weeks. So I only do that 8 times in a season. And like, I would love to be working 8 hours a day doing voice work or working with my pals or being, so it's like, I am ready to work. Like I will be there. But I do think that maybe because season 11 was successful, after season 10, it was kind of like, what's happening? What are we doing? And then we got season 11. And I think that was a little bit of a test to see like if the new format's going to work without Adam writing all the episodes.
Right.
And I think they were like, this is cool. So I think we're still steadily trying to figure out, are we going to keep getting more? And I think we will maybe go back into a higher number of episodes, but the most we ever did was 16. So we maybe go to 10, maybe 13, but I mean, most shows now only do 8 episodes.
Yeah, it's really changed because you're right. Most of them are like 8 to 13.
Yeah.
It used to be like growing up, everybody was 26 or
yes.
22.
Oh my God, Jessica Walter is the best, and she'll tell us stories, and she's been on every show.
Yes, she has.
And she'll be like, "Oh yeah, when I was doing shows, in the 70s, we'd do like 36 episode seasons." It's just like, good God, there was literally, it was on year round. It was all the time,
and people were still complaining.
Yeah, totally.
Rerun this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I just finished the last episode today.
Cool.
The season. Yeah, it was really good.
I loved it. It was fun to be back. It was fun to kind of like, because everybody loved, not everybody loved the coma seasons. I enjoyed the coma seasons, but I think everybody was like ready to get back to the real world, and it was just fun to see everybody back together and doing their thing. And like, I really enjoyed it, and I think the audience did too. Like our viewership was up 30% this year.
Oh wow.
That might be due to COVID because nobody has anything to do, but
True.
It also might be due to us going back to real time.
I love that Archer comes out of the coma and everybody has moved on.
Yes, it's so funny. Like, what a guy to do that to. That's what comedy just like comes right out of that.
Oh yeah, and not only have they moved on, but all of them are doing better.
Yeah, like, it was great when you were gone.
I love that. Now, yeah, my son, one of my sons, he said to make sure he asked why they decided to do so many coma seasons. Why not just one?
Good question. So I don't know the answer to this totally, but I'm pretty sure that Adam was like, he was getting bored. He was like, I want to do something else. And so he pitched to the network, hey, what if we did this? And then we kind of, and then I think he had like kind of a grand plan to wrap it all up at the end of season 10. And they were like, cool, whatever you want to do, which is what they're always like, which is why we get to do what we want to do. And I think he just wanted to write 3 different genres of show. Yeah. And he had the opportunity to do it. Yeah. And so that's why we did 3. And then they also had a conversation, and I hadn't thought about this until they brought it up. And they were like, okay, so when we go back to real time, how long's he been in a coma? Because that could have all happened in 2 days, or is it 3 years? And so they decided to keep it at 3 years because it worked with the show. But yeah, it was, I think it's because he had 3 different shows he wanted to write.
Have you had a favorite guest star on the show? Because you've had some pretty big guest stars.
Yeah, man, there's so many great ones. And the thing I wish happened is I wish that I actually got to meet these people and work with them. Because they were like, oh, you worked with this person. I'm like, no, I didn't. That person doesn't know who I am. But I think my favorite has been Christian Slater. And it's only because, well, he's amazing for one, but I was able to meet him, and he did stuff with us. Like he went to Comic-Con with us, and like he did some other stuff with us. So he like became kind of part of the crew.
Yeah.
And it was just so much fun. And the story is, this is such a great story. So before Mr. Robot, you know, Christian Slater hadn't been doing a ton of stuff, and he was a fan of the show, which is crazy for me to think that Christian Slater was a fan of the show that I was on. And
Awesome.
he really wanted to be on it. So he wrote them a letter. Christian Slater wrote them a letter and was like, hey, I'd like to be on the show. And they were like, of course. How many seasons can we write for you, Mr. Slater? And then he was on the show, and then he was like so excited and so just gracious and wonderful when we met him. And so he came to Comic-Con in San Diego, and we were doing a panel after like the daytime stuff that usually happens. It was like a kind of like a invited thing. And we were reading an episode, and Christian Slater's character wasn't in that episode, but he's like, I'll come be on the panel and read the stage directions. And we're like, Christian Slater, you're going to read our stage directions? Like, he's just the coolest guy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
How did you like the conventions?
You know, they're insane. Like San Diego is, as a person with some anxiety, it's like, this is a nightmare and I'm going to die here and nobody's going to know. And I'm going to get eaten by a bunch of nerds and that'll be the end of my story. But the other flip side is that there are so many amazing fans there. Right. And there's so much cool, like I can't really go out and like look at stuff. Like I have a ticket to go out onto the floor, but like it's so crowded that like if you're out on the convention floor and you're like, oh, look, there's a 6-foot tall Hagrid made out of Legos. Let me go in that direction. It's like, nope, you're going in whatever direction this crowd moves. And so that's a little bit too much for me. But I love the panels. I love seeing the fans and like the cosplayers and the parties. This is the other thing about San Diego Comic-Con in particular. It's like, it's all about the parties and getting into the parties. And it's like, the parties are nightmares. Like, it's like so full of people, and there's a pool in the middle of it, like for no reason. And you're like in heels and you're trying not to fall in this pool because there's free drinks at the bar. And it's just like a nightmare. There's all these people like trying to get seen by managers and agents. And it's just like too much for me. So usually I'll get a couple drinks, and then I'll go back to my hotel room and like find some reruns of the Golden Girls.
That is not what Pam would do.
I know. Pam would be so disappointed in me.
What would Pam call you? What would her nickname for you be?
No, that's such a great question. I've never been asked that before.
That's what I do.
That's so good. That's so good.
A hard-hitting question.
Pam call me. Like, she'd be like, hey there, wet blanket. I gotta think on that one. That's such a good one.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, we do a lot of conventions, and they're all crazy. It doesn't matter how big they are. They're all kind of nuts. It used to be like when I was in college, I owned a comic book store, and I would go and do conventions and set up a booth, that type of thing. Well, back then it was just the comic book people. It was just comic book writers and artists. That was it. There was no celebrities, none of the cosplay, no women, to be honest. It was mostly men. That was it. And it was just, very quiet. Everybody was very cordial. Mm-hmm. And now it's just turned into this just monster. Which in a lot of ways is just the best, but it can be overwhelming.
Totally. Yeah. It is such a crazy thing. Cause even like, we'll go to smaller cons, like Lucky and I will get invited to like a con in like North Carolina. And we're like, sure, we'll go. And you're right. They're all crazy because the fans are crazy. And it's like, these are the most interesting people you'll ever meet in your life. And it's so much fun. Yeah, it really is great.
Well, it's a big deal. It's a big, I'm a fan too. So it's talking with people on these shows, huge deal for me. Totally. But when I see them at shows, I'm the same way. You see somebody that you've enjoyed watching on TV, whenever it was, I'm big on the ones from when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal. And it's not like you're ever going to run into that person again.
Yeah. Yeah. So say whatever you want, no matter how weird it is.
That's right. Say what you want. But, of course, on the flip side, on your side of it, you're seeing, hundreds of people in a day or more. Yeah. And, it's I've always kind of admired those that could actually make or take a second with each person and make it kind of memorable for that person, because you know that I know you're just worn out at some point.
Yeah.
Just, okay, right.
Yeah.
Take the picture.
You know what the worst part is though, and this has happened to me a few times. Okay, so you're at a small convention and it's like not set up great, and so like all the like celebrity tables are right next to each other, and it's just a celebrity sitting behind a table, but like William Shatner's down here. So then there's just this line of people that are all standing in front of my table that don't want to talk to me. And so I just have to sit there and be like, how's it going, guys? It's like, you don't want to talk to me. You don't know who I am. And it's just the most.
You would be exactly who I would find, because you get a lot of time with you.
Right, exactly. It's like, hey, if you come to my booth, I'll talk to you for 30 minutes.
Yeah, we'll just hang out. I always had a story. I was doing a convention. I don't even remember where it was, but at that time, the big writer in comic books was John Byrne. He was writing X-Men. Mm-hmm. Well, he had a table that was set up next to this guy that nobody knew. He had no clue who it was. Well, that guy was Todd McFarlane, who went on to make Spawn, and he's just this, this toy guy. He's just this. Right. But at that time, he was a nobody. But I knew who he was. And I sat there with him for 3 or 4 hours, just having conversations. He signed, book after book for me. Just, it was the best time. Nobody knew who he was. Well, then, a year or two later, he just blew up. And now I'm sure if you went to a convention, he would be the one.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. So I saw that you had done, I'm jumping around a little bit. I saw that you had done a web series.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think of it. Heart of America.
Yeah.
I get it right? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Tell me about that.
So this was a few years ago. I think we did it in 2015. And my husband's a writer. He's also an improviser. Oh. And that I was trying to get into doing more on-camera work. And so I was like, hey, would you write a series for me where I get to play a bunch of different characters? And he's like, great. And he's got a writing partner. And so he and his partner wrote a series, and his partner also directs, and he directed it, and we shot it in Georgia. And so it's a web series that's 10 episodes.
Okay.
And they're all about 5 minutes each. It's all online. You go to heartofamerica.com and you can see it. It's HART, because that's the character's last name.
Oh, okay.
And so I play four main characters. I play an old narrator that's like an old man with like a milky eye. And then I play like a Bigfoot hunter, an old lady, and an anthropologist. Wait, is that it? I don't know. Anyway, I play 3 other characters, and it's all funny. It's probably not safe for kids. It's kind of raunchy, but it's really fun. The 5th episode is my favorite because it's like a montage that's all set to music where all the characters, like, it's crazy. So yeah, it's really fun. And we did that we shot it over 7 days in a campsite in North Georgia.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it's all online. It was super fun.
I'm gonna find it. I love finding little hidden gems.
It's really fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, are you and your husband, when you're at home, are you just improving off of each other, or are you both really serious at home?
We are not serious. And we totally screw around. Like, we talk in stupid voices to each other, and like we're always singing to our dog, and she's like, God, leave me alone. We don't have kids, so it's just the two of us just constantly screwing around. Especially during the pandemic, because it's like, what the hell else are we gonna do? We just gotta keep ourselves sane. So yeah, we're always trying to make each other laugh.
I think it would be a really funny TV show if you had parents that were improv people, and then a child or children that were really serious and hated.
Yes. And I think that's most kids of improv people. It's like, I'm going to be an attorney and you are ruining my life.
That's right. I would watch that show. That's pretty good. I have also seen you or heard you on Aqua Teen Hunger Force. You made the rounds on all the Adult Swim shows.
Yep.
Cool. I think you know, you do different voices, but you've got kind of you know, your voice is very distinct. You know, you can recognize it.
Yeah.
You can recognize it, which is cool. I like that,
Mm-hmm.
because when you're watching something, you can be like, ah, I know that voice. Like um Mr. Benjamin that does Archer.
Yeah.
His voice is so
Never
distinct. I mean,
changes.
you can recognize him like when I first saw him on camera, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Archer, but I'd never
And you
seen him before.
couldn't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
People always ask him, it's so funny because he's very much a smartass in real life. And people will be like at cons, they'll be like, how come you never do any other character voices? And he's like, okay, you know what? Fuck you guys. Because he really always does the same voice, but that's what's made him totally who he
Oh my
is. And
gosh,
he's
he's got
made
the
so
best
many shows
voice.
doing it.
You know,
There was
I thought for the longest time he was the Arby guy.
he is the Arby's guy.
Oh, he is the Arby's
Yeah.
guy. Okay,
He is the
great.
Arby's guy.
See,
Yeah,
okay,
we
good.
make fun of him all the time about Arby's.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's got. That's why I was like, man, that sounds just like him. And now
Yeah.
somebody told me, no, that's not him. That's not him.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that makes me feel better, because I'm like, oh, God, it sounds just like him.
That's him.
That's great. That's great. So, do you have anything upcoming that we can keep an eye out for?
Well, we were going to shoot a movie, my husband and I, and the people that we work with, but obviously the pandemic kind of got in the way.
This
But
stupid pandemic.
next year, we will be shooting hopefully next year. I think that it'll happen next year. We're going to be shooting a Christmas movie. It'll be me and Colin Mockery of Whose Line Is It Anyway will be playing my dad. And it's kind of like
that sounds hilarious right there.
Oh my God, it's going to be so much fun. The script is so great. It's kind of like a holiday Little Miss Sunshine. Like, it's heartfelt, but also really funny. And we made a short film called That Was Awesome. And we made it with a bunch of actors with special needs. And the lead actor in that was this guy named Luke. And we just kind of fell in love with him because he was such an incredible actor. So he's going to be playing my brother. So it's a story about an adult woman that's a comedian with a brother with special needs. And she goes home for the holidays and everything's a disaster. And Colin Mockery plays our dad. And yeah, it's going to be super fun. So we're going to be shooting that hopefully next year, and we'll be putting stuff out online. So if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you'll find out about it. It's at Amber Nash. And so we'll be putting stuff out about it. We're going to do a little bit of crowdfunding and then hopefully start shooting the second half of the year.
And then it's what, taking it around to see who wants to buy this gem.
Yeah. Then it's all about festivals. And so it'll be released in like 20 years from now.
Have you ever been to a festival?
Like a film festival?
Like a film festival?
I've been to a couple of the smaller ones. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We went to Sundance this year. It's the first non-local one that I've been to, and it was pretty crazy. I mean, it was a lot of fun, but you know, good luck getting in anywhere. You know, it's kind of neat just wandering around, but everybody's bundled up. So you're like passing people and you're like, I think that was, you know, and I was like, but who knows? Because they're so bundled up. Because it's
That's great.
Who knows if you actually pass somebody or not.
Yeah, totally.
But it's fun. It's fun. It's, you know, we kind of went last minute. We were working on a project and took it last minute to kind of, you know, shop it around, get some buzz. So we didn't plan, you know, we didn't pick up tickets ahead of time, which is the smart way to do it.
Right.
We were just there scrambling when we got there, but we still got to see some really good movies and stuff.
That's great.
It's so, I mean, it was right before COVID hit, and you got, you know, just thousands of people crammed into little spaces, and you know, now everybody would be freaking out about it, but in January, everybody was, you know,
that's cool.
That's cool. Whatever. Well, that's really neat. I love that you're doing a Christmas movie, because I know that you know, I've got my oldest, as soon as Halloween is over, she puts up Christmas decorations, and she sent me a video. She's got a 1-year-old, and she sent me a video today. She had her sitting and they're watching Rudolph. So she's and
already happening.
Already happening. She watches every Christmas movie that comes out on Netflix or Hulu or Lifetime, Hallmark. So the
Oh, yeah.
audience is there.
That reminds me, another project we have coming up is the theater that I work at can't be open right now, obviously, but
Yeah.
we're doing a show, my husband and I. It's an improvised Hallmark movie. And so it's like
Ooh.
all the ridiculous things about Hallmark movies. And it's my husband and I, and a narrator that is an actual writer of Hallmark Christmas movies. And we're kind of poking fun a little bit at like the genre. And so we're doing it on stage at Dad's Garage, but it's going to be like you can buy a ticket and then you can stream it. And so you're watching that night's
I have
show.
to watch that.
Yeah. And so it'll be every Friday and Saturday, starting the Friday after Thanksgiving, up until Christmas. And I'm not sure how much tickets are, but you can go to dadsgarage.com and find out about it. And it'll be super fun because it's a live event. So like you'll actually get to see a live show.
Gosh. And well, and I love those. I love live events. That's
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I'm in. We're doing
Cool.
that. Yeah, we're doing that. That's because we'll invite all the kids over. We'll
Great.
make it
That's
a
so
thing.
fun.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. We've got a friend who is a set director for Hallmark, so he does a lot of the
That's so
scenes.
great.
He has set up the scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
And but he's real sensitive about it. He's real sensitive because we'll tease him, about.
Yeah, right.
About, especially because they're not all wonderful. There's some really good ones.
Yeah.
Some of them are a little rough. So we'll give him a hard time about that. He's very, very sensitive.
Great. I love it.
Well, Amber, this has been great. Thank you so much.
I had so much fun.
I did want to ask you one thing. Did I see something that you were involved in something with chimpanzees?
Yes. Yeah. There's a sanctuary in North Georgia called Project Chimps.
Yeah.
And it's a sanctuary that takes retired research chimps from laboratories and then takes them to the sanctuary, and they get to live a beautiful, wonderful life. And they get to be outside and climb trees. And it's pretty fantastic. And there's still chimps that are in labs that we need to get to our sanctuary.
Yeah.
It's a great place. But if you go to projectchimps.org, you can find out about it if you're a person that's interested in that kind of thing. It's really an incredible place. And they have lots of videos up on their site and on YouTube and stuff where you can see the chimps just like being chimps.
Yeah. I think that's so great. Good for you. Good for
Yeah.
you. That's what I need. I need someone to start a reserve for retired podcasters where they'll put me outside. And
I say the same thing. We always talk about how we need a old folks home for improvisers where we all just go, we get to be together. No one wants to hear our jokes except for us. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, people would come in and you would just be spouting off different lines and they'd have no clue what the heck you were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd watch that show too. Before you go, if our listeners, our viewers want to find you, where can they go?
So you can go to @AmberCNash on Instagram and Twitter. You can go to dadsgarage.com to look at stuff about Dad's Garage. Dad's Garage has a YouTube channel, which is called Dad's Garage TV.
Yeah, it's funny too.
Yeah, there's lots of good stuff on there. Projectchimps.org is the Project Chimps website. I think that's it.
That's pretty good. See, I could be on Archer. I need to just be one of those goons. I could be one of the goons that gets, accident. Like my son, Brett, he just, because you've got a Brett that was in the series that was always the guy in the office that gets shot accidentally. That's what he wants to do.
Oh my God.
He wants to be that guy. I could do something like that.
Yeah, totally.
Just, some type of something where I wouldn't have to speak too much. You'd have to write out my lines. I'd have to study them. We'd probably need multiple takes.
You could totally do it.
I could totally do it.
Season 12, we'll get you
Or
in
making
there.
some phone calls for me.
You got it.
Thank you, Amber. Please come back
so
when stuff settles down and you've got the Christmas movie coming out or the new season of Archer. Please come back.
I'd love to. So much fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Goodbye. So that was Amber Nash. Pretty awesome. She sounds like Pam, of course, but not quite like Pam. So most of the time just fine. And then every once in a while she'd say something. I was like, let's pay him. So that was kind of fun. I really enjoyed that. And voice acting is such a difficult job. You think that would be an easier one, the voice acting, but to me, I think it's more difficult because you have to imagine a lot of it, and I'm sure that at times they're in a room together, so they're kind of acting together, but you don't always have that person opposite you that you can kind of respond to. And I think that makes it difficult. Plus, you're usually talking in a voice that's not quite your own, and I think that's difficult too. But she's wonderful, and she should do more on camera work. The times that she's on, really good, and she's funny. That's what. Now that this episode's getting ready to air, I'm sure the phone's going to be ringing off the hook for her. We got to get her on camera. She is hilarious. I would love to get her on camera, and definitely check out some for improv because it's really really funny. I'm looking forward to the Christmas movie. Thank you so much for continuing to give us a shot every week and every month. We don't take it for granted. We really appreciate it. If you would help us out by going to Facebook and liking us, it's under MeisterCon. Please, if you are so inclined, we are building our podcast studio. Amber was our third interview that we have done in the studio, but we're still painting, we're still buying furniture, we're still getting that together, which is why we still have the MeisterCon banner up instead of just the studio. But we could use your help, and you can do that by going to patreon.com/MeisterCon. And we'll give you some bonus content and some early access for your trouble. Even a few dollars is definitely appreciated. Check us out on our new website, meistercon.com. Brett has got some amazing, hilarious, fun blogs on there. So you can check those out. And you can also find all of our audio and video episodes. I think that's it. I really appreciate everybody. And we'll see you again next time. Bye.